Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Arjun. Fantastic Four First Steps is now out in theater. This is the final MCU movie of the year, and I got a chance to watch it, so in this video, I'm going to share my thoughts on the movie. Before I share my review of the movie, guys, let me know down in the comments if you got a chance to watch Fantastic Four First Steps. What did you think about the movie? What were your expectations going into it? What do you think about the MCU right now? Now, for me, I wasn't very excited for this movie because I'm not a big Fantastic Four fan. And I also just didn't think the movie looked very good based off of the trailers. To be fair, I think I only watched the first trailer, and then I watched clips and stuff from the trailers that came after it on Instagram and stuff like that. I never reacted to any of the trailers other than the very first one. So I didn't think it looked very good. I wasn't a fan of the cast. I think Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards was a very odd casting choice. Having Joseph Quinn as Human Torch, I think that was a weird casting choice. And I didn't know the actor they cast to play the Thing. His name is moss-bachrach. Hopefully I said that right. I haven't seen him in anything before, so I didn't really know what to expect from him going into it. The only casting choice I was a fan of was Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. I think that was a pretty good casting choice. Other than that, though, I wasn't really interested in anything in this movie, if I'm being completely honest. But I did watch Thunderbolts, and I loved it. I think it was a return to form for the MCU. And obviously the post-credit scene for that movie kind of teased this movie. So that got me a little bit more excited for this. And then as you got into the week before the movie came out, the reviews started coming out, and they were fantastic.
Say that again?
People were saying this is one of the best MCU movies since Endgame, which they say all the time, but this time it felt more genuine because it is something different. It's not trying to do the same MCU formulaic thing. And because it takes place on its own universe, it's not exactly the same thing. A lot of my hesitation going into this was because Superman got fantastic reviews. But after watching Superman, I was a little bit disappointed by it. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I liked it still. I think it's a good movie. I just didn't think it was as great as a lot of the reviews were saying they were. And after watching Fantastic Four, I have to say, it's a lot better than I expected it to be. And I think something that really works to this movie's advantage is that it takes place in its own universe. It's not constrained or limited by anything going on in the MCU. It just does its own thing. And director Matt Shakman really takes advantage of that. The movie has a very distinct vibe. It has a retro analog feel to it, and I think it works to the movie's advantage. If you've seen Loki, I think like what the TVA feels like is what a lot of the technology and the stuff going on in this movie feels like, which I think worked really well. And it's just a world that's interesting because it's not like our MCU world where there's heroes everywhere, everything's kind of the same like the real world. It's interesting because you have flying cars, you have flying cop cars, and you see chases going on in the background as our characters are walking around. The way everything visually looks too feels very nostalgic, even though it's like a retro futuristic world where like nothing about it should really be nostalgic other than maybe some of the technology here and there. The way the characters dress, the costumes, everything just has a really unique feel to it, and that's something that's really interesting. And everywhere you go, there's different places, there's different locations that are interesting to look at, and you could go off on different side quests a lot throughout this movie. You don't. The movie is very focused and very short, but there's a lot of things that you could explore in this world. So I would love to see more movies that take place in this universe. Weirdly enough, I know a lot of people are going to be comparing this to Superman, and I'm going to as well. There's a lot I found very similar about both of these movies, but I think Fantastic Four is a slightly better film. They both don't have an origin story. They don't really show the origin story for the character. Superman, it kind of catches you up with text on screen. You just have to read it. With Fantastic Four, they have a little montage at the beginning showing the hero's origin story a little bit. It's not really showing the origin story, just shows kind of the history of them, background of them. I guess in a sense it shows you the origin story. And I think it works in both cases. Where I think Fantastic Four is able to do a better job is Superman feels like we're dropped in the middle of a story that has already begun. This movie feels like the story that we are in hasn't begun yet. Like a lot of this movie deals with Sue and Reed having a kid, which doesn't happen till literally the first scene in this movie. So you're starting where you need to start. And the movie introduces Galactus and everything like that in an interesting way where you are caught up. You don't feel like you're ever behind or you're ever lacking any information, which I felt that I was missing information and missing pieces of the story when I watched Superman. I didn't feel that way here, so I think that worked great. The movie is able to catch you up with what's going on in this world without exposition. It's able to do it through characters naturally, and I feel like Superman had a lot of exposition. Here, there's not a lot of that. I mean, there's obviously characters talking about events that have happened in the past, but not to the extent that in Superman. Superman, I feel like felt like it had odd dialogue where people don't talk like that. Here it's like people just talking about things that happened in the past, and it feels like natural conversation, or you're caught up through it. Like I said, there's a montage at the beginning through that, and I think there's things like that that work really well. Both movies also have messages. Superman is obviously about kindness and kind of being the best version of yourself, being a good human being in a lot of ways. I don't think that movie quite conveyed that message to its full potential. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about it online, so I guess it did in that sense. But to me, when I left that movie, I was more thinking about my frustrations with it rather than the message that it was able to convey. For me, with Fantastic Four, I think its message about family, especially through a character like Sue Storm, was able to be explored really well and be given the gravitas that it needs. Obviously, you have to talk about the team here, and I think they all work great. I love the core team dynamic. I think all four of them are great, and I think they all work off of each other really well. I don't know if I have a particular favorite character. If I had to choose, I would probably go with Sue Storm, because she feels like the emotional centerpiece of this movie, because she is the mother of Franklin, or the baby. So a lot of what's going on in this, where Galactus is demanding the baby, and it's all just explored in a way through her perspective that's really emotional and dark, and you kind of get where she's coming from a lot of the time. The movie also has themes about motherly love and how important kids and parents are to each other, and I think that's really important and interesting, and it's explored in this movie in a very emotional way that I think worked really well. The entire second act of this movie, even the first act of this movie, a lot of it is just about this relationship that Reed and Sue have with their kid, and it's very important to the core of the story, because they could offer up the kid to save the world, but that dilemma is what's really important about this movie. Like I said, I was very worried about Pedro Pascal and Joseph Quinn as their roles. With Joseph Quinn, I think he won me over. I think he works really well as Johnny Storm here. He's not as much of a womanizer as he is in the older films, specifically the Chris Evans Johnny Storm. It doesn't really go that far with it, but he definitely likes women. You definitely see that, especially with the scenes he has with the Silver Surfer. I think he works really well, and I think there's more nuance to the character here. He's not just a womanizer. He's not just out there looking for to be the public's favorite hero. He just wants to be a good guy. He just wants to be a hero still, although he does have some of those elements to him. He's also a really smart guy. He plays a very important role in something that happens in this movie related to the Silver Surfer, and I think it works really well. Pedro Pascal, for me, left a little more to be desired. I think he works well enough as Reed. He feels like he's really smart, and I think that works great. But my problem comes down to kind of his personality. I think he lacks a little bit of personality. I think the Reed in the older Fantastic Four movies, he feels like a goofy kind of nerd kind of character, but also feels like he's really smart. I think Pedro Pascal, he kind of loses that personality, the goofy personality, and maybe that's to the movie's advantage, because in this movie specifically, it's a very dark movie. It's exploring some really heavy themes, so maybe it works to the movie's advantage, but I think to him, like his performance itself, it didn't really make a mark on me, and that's my problem with it. Like I think I'd still say the Reed from the early 2000s Fantastic Four movies is probably my favorite. But Pedro Pascal does do a great job. He does a great job of having this feeling of like the whole world's weight is on his shoulders. Because he's the smartest guy, he has to figure out a way to save the world. And I think you feel that through his performance. I just wish he was able to show a little more personality through his performance. Yvonne moss-bachrach as the Thing is also very good. I wish he got a little more to do in the story. He does have some emotional moments, and he's definitely great in the middle of the movie. He has a lot to do in the space sequence that happens in this film, and I think he works really well there. He also has some emotional aspects to the character about him obviously not exactly fitting in with the rest of the world. But I like that this movie doesn't take that to the levels that the older Fantastic Four movies did. Both the early 2000s one with Rise of the Silver Surfer and also Fantastic, both of them kind of have the Thing just being this brooding, sad guy. Here, he's not that. Since he's had time to settle with his powers for a bit, he's almost over it. There's obviously a little bit of sadness in him. You see that because he craves like a relationship. But there's also a side to him that he likes being a hero. He likes people looking up to him and stuff like that. And that works very well here because he's a lot of the heart and soul of the movie. Where Sue, I feel like, is the emotional core of the movie. I think the Thing is kind of what holds the team together. He's there for everyone. He's just a good best friend to have. And I think that works really well. The Silver Surfer, for me, I think had a very good arc in this movie. It's very similar to the arc that version of Silver Surfer in the Rise of the Silver Surfer has. In a lot of ways, they are very similar. I think it works slightly better in that movie because I think in both versions, it's a lot of tell, don't show. They don't show the Silver Surfer's backstory at all. They just talk about it. In this one, they show a little bit, like there's a little flashback, but it's not really explored to its fullest potential. I wish we got a little more of Silver Surfer in this because her arc feels like it's almost rushed. And that's kind of a problem for me. Like, I think her arc works well. It's a very good arc, and especially makes an impact on Johnny Storm's character, I think is really good. But I think there should have been more time spent on that rather than the movie kind of rushing through it. And I think that's a little bit of a problem with the movie itself. Whereas I feel like Superman was too short and it didn't have a lot of important moments for the story to play out. Like I said, I feel like that movie is missing pieces. This movie isn't necessarily missing anything. I just think it needs to expand on certain things. And I know a lot of people were saying that based off of the trailers and stuff like that, a lot of the scenes in this movie were cut that were in the trailers. And that makes sense. Like I said, I haven't watched all the trailers, so I don't know what is cut and I don't know how much is cut. But if that is the case, it's kind of unfortunate because I would have liked to see some of the things in this movie expanded upon. Because there's moments, there's arcs, small plot points that feel rushed rather than the movie itself. I don't think the movie's rushed. I think the story is actually very well paced. There's just little arcs in the movie that could have been done better. I thought Galactus was a very intimidating villain. I think he works very well here. And he also just looks cool. When he shows up, he has a very intimidating presence. And even when he doesn't show up, when the Silver Surfer shows up on Earth and she's like, I herald his beginning, I herald your end, I herald Galactus. Like when she says that, you feel the dread, you feel that sense of danger throughout this whole movie. And I think that works fantastically. I think Galactus is a great villain here. He's not necessarily someone with a great backstory, like someone like Thanos or something. He's very simple. He's just hungry, and he's going to devour the world, and that's just who he is. And he has that intimidating presence, and I think it works fantastically in this movie. He's not one of my favorite movie villains in the MCU or anything, but he's very good. It feels like a sense of threat, a danger that's looming throughout the whole movie. I wish they did a little more with him in the third act. I still think he's good in the third act. I just wish he got more of an action scene, I guess. I don't know how you would do an action scene with Galactus because he's so big. I also felt that even though he's really big, is he really big enough to eat a whole planet? They explained that a little bit in the movie, but I still just felt like Is he really that big though? I don't know, it's kind of odd, but I did feel that way a little bit throughout the movie. But he's a very intimidating presence, and I think he works very well. There's obviously constraints with how you could do action scenes with someone like Galactus, just because he's so huge. But I liked him. I think overall he's a pretty good villain. Now, although I was, like I said, disappointed with the action with the Galactus, I think there's some really good action scenes in this movie, specifically in the middle. In the middle of this movie, there's like a space chase scene, which works so well. I think the action in that scene is genuinely one of the best, coolest, most interesting action scenes in the entire MCU. You actually get the Silver Surfer surfing around, which I think is really fun because you don't really see that in the older movie. He's like, in this one, is actually surfing and doing some really cool stuff, which I thought was really cool. But they also do some stuff with black holes, wormholes, and time dilation and stuff like that, which a lot of people are comparing to Interstellar. It's not to that extent, but I see why someone would compare stuff like that. I think that whole sequence was just executed very well. All the team, all the Fantastic Four kind of get a moment to shine there, and I think it works great. I also think the score for the movie is fantastic. Michael Giacchino is one of my favorite composers working right now, and he does a fantastic job here. The main theme is great. It's very memorable. Obviously, it's really good. But also the rest of the themes for the characters and other moments throughout the movie just work really, really well. I know I talked about a little bit of my issues with the movie, like with regards to the pacing and stuff like that. I also have a few other issues. I think the movie could have used a little more action towards the beginning before the plot actually kicks in. I think if the movie started off with that montage, but also had an action scene to pair with it, it would have been nice. And like I said, the final battle was a little bit underwhelming. It's obviously constrained because of someone like Galactus, but it wasn't exactly my favorite fight scene in the MCU or anything like that. And I also think there's some very odd CGI here. Most of the CGI is fantastic, especially when you're in the space scenes. I think the CGI is fantastic. It looks very real. But there's, specifically with the baby, there's not some great CGI there. And even as you go into the final battle, there's moments where the green screen is very obvious, specifically with characters like the Thing and Human Torch, and even Galactus. Like the green screen work isn't the best at times. Most of the movie, CGI looks great, everything looks real, but there's scenes and specific shots where I definitely found the CGI kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. I also felt that some of the characters, their powers are a little inconsistent, especially with Silver Surfer, like her speed. Sometimes she's surfing really fast, sometimes she's really slow, just for the sake of the plot. So I think some of that is a little odd, but also with other characters, I think their powers are a little inconsistent. And the movie story is very similar to Rise of the Silver Surfer, so it does feel very predictable. There's especially something that happens at the end of the movie with Sue, which I was like, this is literally the same movie. And it's a small detail, but it's like, it's very similar. A lot of this movie feels like it's the exact same plot as the Rise of the Silver Surfer. And I watched that movie like a day before watching this one, so I don't think that helped with the comparisons. My final issue here is that the movie's passage of time is very odd. I wish there's like little time cards that showed like 1 month later or stuff like that in this movie, because especially in the first half, a lot of time passes by. That entire first half of the movie takes place over the course like almost a year probably, and it's so weird. It takes place over that much amount of time, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's been a few days maybe. So I wish there were like title cards showing how much time has passed, because it's very hard to kind of follow that in the first half of this movie. So for my score, I'm going to give Fantastic Four First Steps a 78%. I did enjoy this movie quite a bit. I really liked it. I don't think it's the best MCU movie since Endgame. I don't even think it's the best MCU movie of the year. I think Thunderbolts is quite easily a better movie than this, but it's still very good. It's a very good movie. It's definitely continuing a streak of good Marvel movies, from obviously Thunderbolts to this. Hopefully Spider-Man Brand New Day delivers, and then Avengers Doomsday delivers. Then I will be able to say the MCU is back to its almost full potential. But right now we have 2 good movies in a row, so I enjoyed that. I think it's really good. I do think it's better than Superman as far as comic movies this month go. I know that's probably a little bit of a hot take depending on who you ask. But I like this movie a lot. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Let me know down in the comments, what did you think of the new Fantastic Four if you've seen it? If you enjoyed my review, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I'll also leave links in the description to my other social media, so follow me on there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.